Well, last time we were talking about objects of love, and we've been talking about the meaning of love and what it means to love your neighbor. And I thought maybe I would review that a little bit. So, our objects of our love in relation to people around us. Let's just talk about people as objects. I think there needs to be, we need to look at these as spheres that go further and further out, so that in the middle here would be your closest family members, say your wife. You need to love your wife. I was thinking, the Bible says a husband needs to love his wife just as he loves his own body, and give himself self-sacrificially for his wife. There is a very, very important way in which a husband needs to lay down his life for his wife and live sacrificially for his wife. So that close relationship, you can't. It'd be impossible for you to do that literally for every single person in the whole world, right? So there are limitations to our capacity to love, to give ourselves for another. Of course, Jesus did this for everybody, on behalf of everybody when he gave his life, right? He did that for everybody. This affectionate disposition that motivated a lover to act on the best interest or the welfare of another, whether or not they deserve it or reciprocate. So we do that. First for ourselves, you could say. We love ourselves. And then the people around us, our family, our wife, our husband, our children, our mom and our dad, those close relationships, we don't destroy those relationships. We foster those. We are neighbors. We be a neighbor, we must be a neighbor to those close to us. But then it shouldn't stop there. Who is my neighbor? Well, the other question was, the way that Jesus asked the question was how? Was what? He said, who was the neighbor to the person? So I was thinking this morning, I have my neighbors down my street. I have lots of neighbors. But who am I a neighbor to? Of the neighbors that I have around me, who am I a neighbor to? Not just in the negative sense, that I avoid inflicting harm on them. Like, I don't have I don't even have a dog, but if I had a dog, I would want to make sure I didn't let them bark and disturb the neighbors, because of the silver rule, right? Don't do unto others as you wouldn't want them to do to you. Right. But to really be a neighbor means to act positively in their behalf, to be a blessing to them. So to help those that are in need. So I'm a neighbor to someone if I see a need and I act sacrificially on their behalf. Well, have you been a neighbor to anybody lately? Is your neighborliness extending past yourself and those closest to you? And don't forget those closest to you. You need to be neighborly to them too, right? Sometimes that's the hardest thing, even though you do love them. Yeah. But do you really love them? If you're acting selfishly in regards to the relationship with those closest to you. So anyway, pushing that love out to more and more people outside your closest sphere of relationships. Not just ignoring those people out there, but trying to think of ways that we can be a neighbor to those, down your street or in the city, and not forgetting the widows and orphans and their affliction, those sorts of things, right? So, okay. C.S. Lewis had a lot to talk about in regards to love. In fact, he wrote a book called The Four Loves, and it's a very interesting book. You got to read it sometime. I pulled out a few things from there that I thought was especially interesting. He makes a distinction, very interesting distinctions. One distinction between need love and gift love. We mentioned need love a little bit earlier, but what is need love versus gift love?
I'm going to say it's something similar to the reciprocating and non-reciprocating, in the fact that someone has to have love to feel a certain way, or maybe act a certain way, whereas gift love is when someone gives it without expecting it to come back, and just doing it because they want it to be a gift, I guess.
Okay, so with gift love, there's not so much of expectation that someone's going to return the favor, right?
It's almost like you're expecting it might not,
Okay. Whereas need love, it's really an act of dependence upon the person that you are embracing. Like, okay, C.S. Lewis says, does a child love its mother? Yes. With a need love. There's something that they're getting out of that. They're not, even my 5-year-old doesn't necessarily sacrificially give herself to me or my wife. She really loves to be by my wife, loves to be spent time. Well, she's getting something out of that. My daughter is, getting something out of that. So there's that motivation. Whereas gift love, an example of gift love would be, C.S. Lewis gave this example, a man working for the future well-being of a family which he will never see. So he may die. He wants to leave. He wants to leave an inheritance to his sons or daughters, maybe, out of love, out of gift love. So there's that distinction. And so does a child love its mother? Yes, with the need love. Gift love, a man working for the well-being of a family which he will never see. And then the distinction between need pleasure and pleasures of appreciation. And we'll see the connection of this to love. But do you have any idea what this distinction might be? A pleasure that comes out of need versus just a pleasure of appreciation. That's not preceded by desire. That's kind of the distinction.
So kind of like your pleasure, you get pleasure out of helping someone else, which would be like pleasure of appreciation. Whereas needing pleasure is something that you feel like you have to do to feel satisfied.
Okay, let's say you're very thirsty. You're very thirsty and you're looking for a drink of water. So if you find a water fountain and you just guzzle it up and you enjoy that drink of water, right? What kind of pleasure is that? Is that a need pleasure or a pleasure of appreciation?
Appreciation.
Well, you appreciate it, but
You can't need it, you're thirsty too.
you needed it. It was a desire. It was a pleasure preceded by desire, a need. I'm thirsty, and so there's nothing inherently so much tasteful about water. I mean, it really doesn't have much of a taste, although I actually enjoy sometimes enjoy drinking water, but you know, you're drinking something pretty much tasteless, but it satisfies you because you had a need, you had a desire, you were thirsty. Now, if that cold drink that you got when you were really thirsty was your favorite bottle of pop, you know, ice cold bottle of pop, then that may be both, right? Both a pleasure of appreciation and a need pleasure. Okay, but here's a pure pleasure of appreciation. You're just walking through a say a bean field, and all of a sudden you know it's flowering at this point, and you just suddenly you smell the beautiful fragrance. It's like, oh, unexpectedly you bring in this smell, you know, this aroma.
Appreciation.
A pleasure of appreciation. Or you look up your eyes, you lift your eyes and you see this beautiful sunset. Oh, and you take it in and you maybe are in awe. You know, my 5-year-old, she loves to look at sunsets and sunrises. We saw the sun peek up over the horizon. In fact, it was in a big ball because of the way that the atmosphere was. You could see it like big and orange, and she just loves to see something. She saw that the other day, and she says, "I don't know if that's a moonset or a sunset." I said, "It's a sunrise." Yeah, but she wants everybody to take pictures of these sunsets and sunrises. Well, you know, this is a pleasure of appreciation, right? You don't have to experience that, but you just enjoy it. And it's something that you could say deserves to be appreciated. You didn't need to experience it, but it's like, oh, you know, that art, or, you know, anything beautiful, anything, you know, it smells good or whatever. You just enjoy it just because it deserves to be appreciated. And there's pleasure that you receive out of that. It's not preceded by a desire. Now, Lewis says that addictions can take the second kind, a pleasure of appreciation, and turn it into a first kind. Right? Like you initially maybe enjoy the taste of wine or beer or whatever.
Then you need it.
And then you need it, and you become dependent on it. And it's not so much that you enjoy it, you just need to have, you know, you're addicted to it. So, yeah, let me find a couple more examples in here. It's interesting. He said, a scullery tap and the tumbler are very attractive indeed when we come in parched from mowing the grass. 6 seconds later, they are emptied of all interest. The smell of frying food is very different before and after breakfast. You ever notice that? And if you will forgive me for citing the most extreme instance of all, see, we're talking about need pleasures here. If you will forgive me for citing the most extreme instance of all, have there not been for most of us moments in a strange town when the sight of the word gentleman over a door has roused a joy almost worthy of celebration in verse? You know what he's talking about? There's a men's room. But he says, pleasures of appreciation are very different. They make us feel that something has not merely gratified our senses, in fact, but claimed our appreciation by right. Those things deserve to be appreciated. It reminds me of when I was in choir. I think it was my first or second year in college. We went to this church, and us guys, we noticed in the congregation, among the crowd, maybe this was after service or something, and we were talking about this beautiful blonde girl that we saw. She was just gorgeous, and so we were talking, as guys, and I said, someone like that, you just have to admire. I was showing my pleasure of appreciation, right? You just have to admire somebody that beautiful. Well, one of my friends, he said, admire nothing. I'm going to marry her. So he had more of a need pleasure, right?
Yeah.
He had a need for her. Well, I was just appreciating it, It deserved to be appreciated. Okay, so again, need pleasures must be preceded by desire. A beautiful sunset brings about a pleasure of appreciation. Okay, got that distinction? And then the distinction between need love, gift love, and appreciative love. So these things relate to what comes before here. Well, what's the difference between need love, gift love, and appreciative love? In regards to what they say, let's just use the example of a woman again. What does need love versus gift love versus appreciative love say to a woman? Can you get any?
Like as far as how we present that.
Okay, let me just give you the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, need love says, I can't live without her. I can't live without her. I need her. You've heard people say that. I can't live without her. What would gift love do? Gift love longs to serve, longs to give her happiness, protection, comfort, and if possible, wealth, right? The desire to give. That's what love does, all right? There's a desire to give. What would appreciative love say or do?
So basically, you're having because of what that woman has, you're thankful, grateful.
Yes.
You appreciate that love.
You appreciate it, yeah. Lewis says, appreciative love gazes and holds its breath and is silent. Rejoices that such a wonder should exist, even if not for him. Will not be wholly dejected by losing her, would rather have it so than never to have seen her at all. Appreciative love. This person is so beautiful inside and out that they just deserve to be appreciated. And I'm just like, oh, I'm in wonder, and awe, of such beauty. It doesn't have to be just about a woman, but it could be, about anything that's God's creation. You just stand in awe. Well, let's relate this to our relationship to God. What does need love do? Need love cries to God out of our poverty. God, I need you. I'm dependent upon you. And there's that element. In fact, I don't think we ever get away from need love in our relationship with God. Gift love longs to serve or even to suffer for God. I want to give myself for God. I want to do something. I want to bring him pleasure. I want to serve Him. I want to give myself away for God. What would appreciative love do?
Being thankful for what He's doing for us, like everyday blessings.
Mm-hmm. This is where that worship comes in, right? We give Thee thanks, O God, for Thy great glory. We stand in awe of what He has done, and we revel in His love and His greatness. Okay? So you see those distinctions, and all of them are important. All right, any other thoughts you have to say about those distinctions? These aren't actually the 4 loves of the book, but they're related to the 4 loves. Let's go to the 4 loves. Affection. So what's affection? There's actually a Greek word, storge, that is used to refer to this kind of love. So affection between family members, between even there could be storge between a dog and a cat. Some kind of affection. There's affection between a teacher and his students, or between the students and the teacher. There's, I like you guys, and there's that kind of relationship where I enjoy being around you, and maybe I would miss you if I never saw you again, that kind of thing. Relational things like your great old aunt, maybe she's kind of cantankerous, but there's still an affection there. You just kind of enjoy being around her, right? So there's that kind of love. It's not romantic. It's not necessarily agape love, where you're giving yourself to another. It's not necessarily even friendship so much. It's just affection. Okay? And this is fostered by spending time with people. It's you begin to like them, and to appreciate the relationship. And then there's friendship. Okay, you've heard of philia, that relationship there. So what's the uniqueness of a friendship? Okay, just a minute. Did you get it?
Can I have the car keys? We'll cut this out. Can I have the car keys so I can drive them off? Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Cut this.
Okay.
Thank you, I'll bring it back. Sorry.
No problem. All right, just put them on my desk. Okay, so since we're gonna cut that anyway, let me just start over here. Find a spot here where.
So we're just basically focusing on the word. You want us to kind of give a definition for each. I don't know what you're saying.
Okay. Well, I'll kind of let you know. All right, so we can start the tape here now. So friendship comes from philia, philos. Phileo means I love. It's a friendship kind of love. What would the difference be between friendship and eros? Now, eros, is romantic love. It's not necessarily sexual per se. It's romantic love. Those feelings of, wow. But you see the distinction between friendship and romantic love.
It's almost like there's more intensity involved with Eros.
Is it a difference of intensity, or is it something else?
I mean, it is a different type of love, obviously.
Okay. So, friends are friends because they have common interests. So maybe they like clocks, and so they're both focused on the clock. So they're standing side by side. Yes, they enjoy being around each other. They have affection, so forth, but they're focused on some common interest. Okay, so they're standing side by side looking in this direction. Eros, how does that change? They turn to each other and they're focused in one another. Were you going to say that? Yeah. And so a lot of times, if you have an opposite sex friendship, when they spend time together and they have mutual interests and that kind of thing, a lot of times, that interest turns to each other. And Lewis talks about how if they're not repulsed naturally from each other, from some unattractive feature or whatever that one might have, this is natural. It's just kind of natural for friends to become lovers if they spend enough time with each other. The common interests kind of pull them together, and then they notice each other. And it turns into a romantic relationship. A lot of times that happens. Not always.
I know that was the one thing I commented on and then we went over for the homework.
Oh, okay.
Because I was like, yes, it's natural, but like in my experience, I've had a lot of friends from high school that were females that, I mean, I would almost call them a sister because I know them well enough. But I've also had to reach the point of determining and saying, like coming out and saying, this is as far as it goes.
Right.
Because in that case.
They may get other ideas, right?
Right. In that case, natural desires take.
So you left it at affection, right? You enjoyed being with them, and you were friends. You had more of a filial relationship, family. It was like family, but it didn't turn into romantic because you weren't really focused on one another and found your joy in one another. You found it in other things that you were connected with. Okay. The last love, we mentioned it. What is that? Charity or agape. This is divine love. This is that self-sacrificial love that gives even when another person may not reciprocate. Okay? Any questions about any of those? So know these, kind of understand what they are, the distinctions between the four loves, and they could all be kind of wrapped up in one. Like say for your husband or wife, you should have affection, you should be friends, you should have romantic love, and it should be self-sacrificial. Okay? Right, that's all.